Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Nissen. I am the program manager for Students and Educator program here at Elastic. I'm super excited to be here. I connected with Dr. Arthur, what seems like ages ago, but was probably only a couple months ago, and alerted us to this awesome opportunity to kind of work with you guys throughout the semester, and really introduce you to just one of the many products and tools that you might be using during class. So you'll probably see us maybe one or two more times throughout your semester, but just know I'll put my information in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out at any point. So I'm going to start off, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Lisa. She can introduce herself, and she's going to give you just really kind of the nuts and bolts of Elastic, and kind of introduce you to what we are and what we do. And I'm just going to talk to you just a little bit about kind of the community part of it. So Lisa, do you want to go to the next slide? So as I mentioned, I oversee the Elastic for Students and Educator program. So this is a new program for Elastic, but it is really focused on supporting and engaging with students and with educators, primarily in higher education. So we really see the value in extending product access and helping with training programs, in bringing elasticians into your classroom and giving you kind of that hands-on experience, really with the ultimate goal of helping you to learn a skill set that's in demand, that makes you more employable, help you to kind of diversify your portfolio a little bit, and really just kind of introduce you to what Elastic can do. So our program does a lot of different things, and as you kind of progress throughout your degree program, or if you ever find yourself wanting to use maybe Elastic products for a research program, or you want to explore a little bit more with training, that's really where I come in and I can help you to do that. So this is just one of the ways in which we kind of support students, but it's a growing program. And so really, we're always open to ideas and suggestions, whatever you need. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And then just one of the ways that you can really start now to kind of network and learn a little bit more about Elastic and kind of connect with users and engineers is really to kind of connect with the Elastic community. So we're a huge community. We're global, and we have, basically during a year can host upwards of 1,200 meetups. Of course, we've gone totally virtual, and so that's great for everybody because that means you can attend a meetup all around the world at any time, really in any topic. And so these meetups are generally just our users or just advocates out in the community that want to talk about how they're using Elastic. So it's a really cool way to just learn about use cases, learn about how it's being kind of put into action, and then also just connect with different community members and just kind of start to grow your network a little bit. So next slide. And then these are just some QR codes, and I'll put all these links into the chat as well. And these are just ways that you all are college students. You're all starting to think possibly about what your next step is. And this is just one of the thousands of ways in which you can start to get involved and learn a little bit more out on your own, whether it's attending a virtual meetup. We have a community Slack workspace where you can go and you can ask questions about our products, or you can connect with community members or find out about events. And then we also have a YouTube channel. So, that's where you can watch demos, you can watch workshops, how-to videos, really just kind of specific to different areas. So just a couple ways that you can get involved. But like I said, I'll put all this information into the chat so you don't have to worry about it. But we're really excited to be working with you and just think about this as kind of like the first step in that relationship. And we're happy to kind of support you as you move forward and move through your course and through your program. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Lisa, who is going to give you the rundown on what Elastic actually is. So Lisa, go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, everybody. How's it going? I'm Lisa, and I'm a developer advocate at Elastic. Now, I'm so excited to be here and share what Elastic Solutions are all about. Now, being here with all of you in this class, it's bringing back so many memories from college. Now, college was fun, but I also felt this immense pressure to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I found myself doubting, did I pick the wrong career path? And if I'm stuck in this forever? And it took me a lot of trials and errors until I found my dream job as a developer advocate. So before we get to Elastic Solutions, I'll share my background real quick. I went to college and grad school at University of Colorado at Boulder. And back then I was trying to figure out whether I wanted to become a doctor or a neuroscientist. And one day I was sitting in a lab measuring thousands of gonads for hours and hours. And I thought, oh my God, there's gotta be more to life. I need a career change. So after I graduated, I dabbled in politics. I was doing healthcare legislative research at the US Senate in DC. And I was making no money at the time. So in the evenings, I would bartend in DuPont Circle to support myself. Then I jumped into tech startups in Manhattan and Silicon Valley, where I was leading business development and product marketing. And during that time, I became so inspired by the impact that developers had. So I took the plunge and became a full stack developer. Then I combined my love for tech and public speaking into developer advocacy role and found my dream job at Elastic. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are stressing out about choosing your career right now, and I really feel for you. But it's really okay if you haven't figured it out. I mean, you can try multiple things and you'll eventually find your way. So now I'm getting way off tangent. You're all here to learn about Elastic. So let's get to it. Now let's start with a quick poll. I'm going to pull it up here. Okay. So have you ever used the Elastic Stack before? Well, how many people do we have in the class? 4, 5, 6?
I believe it's 5, and then including me.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I'm gonna end poll now, share the results. Okay, so it seems like actually a lot of you have used the Elastic Stack. Now, for one of you who haven't used it before, the chances are you're actually using a lot of apps with certain features that are powered by the Elastic Stack. So for example, if you have ever searched for a ride on Uber, Elastic is the engine that powers the Uber marketplace that connects you to the driver. Now, if you ever had mad cravings for tacos and were searching for open restaurants on Yelp, Elastic is powering that search. So it's hidden under a lot of the apps and websites that you use on a daily basis, which few of them are shown here. So what is the Elastic Stack exactly? So if you're a developer working with data, the Elastic Stack is a great tool to have on your belt. So it consists of Beats, Logstash, Elasticsearch, and Kibana. And with the stack, you can take data from any source in any format, then search, analyze, and visualize it in real time. So some of the most popular use cases for the Elastic Stack are logging, metrics, security analytics, and business analytics. For example, the Elastic Stack is used to store and analyze log data. And a specific example for all the gamers out there, Blizzard uses the Elastic Stack to analyze gamer and server events. So if the players experience a slowdown or an error, their monitoring team would use the Elastic Stack to figure out what's causing it. Now, it could also be used to gather metrics. And one of my favorite examples is the Mars Curiosity rover. Now, it sends telemetry, sensor, and photo data into the Elastic Stack for analysis. So if someone wanted to know how hot Mars is on an hourly basis, you can go and pull the data. Now, with the Elastic Stack, you could analyze security issues and threats within an environment as well. So you probably have used Slack at hackathons or at student clubs before. And what you may have not realized is that Slack used the Elastic Stack in their security operations center to secure communications through their channels. Now, lastly, with Tinder, you probably didn't know that the Elastic Stack was helping people find their match. Now, this is the technology behind using geolocations to match people together. It's also used to analyze business needs and build custom applications so you could analyze and learn from the data. For example, Tinder relies on the Elastic Stack to analyze and predict which people a user will swipe right on, or which people will swipe right on that user, and when there's a match. Now, all of these use cases are made possible by the Elastic Stack. So to recap, the Elastic Stack takes data from any source in any format, then search, analyze, and visualize it in real time. Now, it's a collection of 4 products. First, we have Elasticsearch, which is the heart of the Elastic Stack. It allows you to store, search, and analyze your data. Then we have Kibana, which is a visualization tool, and it's a UI that helps you visualize and explore data in Elasticsearch. Now, in order for us to work with data, we need to get data into Elasticsearch, right? And this is where Beats and Logstash come into play. So Beats are lightweight data shippers that push data into Elasticsearch. And if you need to parse and enrich your data before pushing data into Elasticsearch, then you would use Logstash. So this diagram shows you all of the Elastic offerings and how these are deployed. So at the core of Elastic, we have the Elastic Stack, and we built 3 solutions on top of a stack. And these solutions are Elastic Enterprise Search, Elastic Observability, and Elastic Security. Now, these solutions don't consist of separate products. It's more of a refined ways of using the Elastic Stack towards specific use cases. So let's start off with the Elastic Enterprise Search. Now, this solution consists of 2 products, App Search and Workplace Search. So let's talk about the App Search first. So we use search on a daily basis on various apps and websites. And as users, we want a search experience that is smart. You want your search to autocomplete suggestions for you. You want it to autocorrect if you misspell something. And you want search to be fast and relevant. Because let's face it, if you have a negative search experience, you probably won't go back to that app again. So these things are the things that we thought about when we created App Search solution for developers. So App Search provides a set of refined APIs, intuitive dashboards, and developer tools. So developers could easily add powerful search experience to their apps and websites. So the common use cases where App Search is used are SaaS, web applications, e-commerce sites, GeoSearch, and the list goes on and on. In addition to helping developers add a great search experience to their app, we also wanted to give them the ability to curate results and take a look at the analytics. So for example, let's say you have an e-commerce site with search capability, and it would be really helpful to know how many people are using the search capability, what they're searching for, and how many times they have found what they're looking for and then made a purchase. So Elastic App Search provides an easy-to-use tools for DevOps and SREs so they can take a look at how the search is performing and how their customers using the search capability. So a real-life example of Elastic App Search in action is HappyFresh. So this is an online grocery platform in Southeast Asia. And by using Elastic App Search, they improved their customer search experience, which increased sales and revenue. And it helped them increase their web and search traffic and decrease their search latency as well. Now let's switch gears and talk about the workplace search. And as the name suggests, workplace search was created for internal IT organization within a workplace. So what do you use it for? Well, imagine that you're a knowledge worker in all Microsoft Shop. So you're using Outlook, your mail is sitting on Exchange, and you're using SharePoint, Dropbox, and OneDrive. And with this setup, when you're looking for information, you're performing a separate search for each tool, which takes up time. So the question is, how do we bring all of that data together in one place so you can find things faster? Well, that is what workplace search is all about. So it brings all of your data together in one place so you can instantly search across all the tools that you use at work. So you can find information quickly and be more productive at work. Okay, so I've got a pop quiz for you guys, so let me load it up. Okay, what does Elastic Workplace Search do? Okay, so you guys are crushing it today. So you guys picked the right answer. It allows you to search information at your workplace across data sources. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to Elastic Observability. So let's say you have an app that millions of users depend on every day. Then suddenly one of your systems goes down and your users are seeing this on the screen. Now, this is bad, right? So the longer your app is down, you lose more revenue and will have dissatisfied customers. So when this happens, we need to quickly find the problem and fix it as soon as possible. But what makes this so difficult is that your app depends on so many different systems like the one shown on the right. So imagine that you are a site reliability engineer or part of DevOps, and something goes wrong with your app. Now, to figure out what's wrong, you have to make sense of these 14 different monitors. So how are we going to bring all this information together to find the problem? Well, that is exactly what Elastic Observability does. So imagine going from looking at these 14 different monitors to seeing this single UI with Elastic Observability. Now, this screen is much more manageable and intuitive than making sense of 14 different monitors. So what Elastic Observability does is it brings all those logs, metrics, and traces together into a single data store. This way, you have all this information in a single UI, so you could easily zoom in on the problem. Now, when you do that, you could easily drill into logs, metrics, and APM, and you could also search for something specific so you can really hone in on what's going on with your systems and fix the problem as soon as possible. Now, an example of Elastic Observability in action is Kroger, which is a large supermarket chain in the Midwest. And before using Elastic, they were using all these siloed tools to monitor their online app. Now, when something went wrong, it took them hours to find a solution to fix their site. Now, with Elastic Observability, they could usually isolate the issue in less than 10 minutes. That's awesome, right? Now, what's even more awesome is the next pop quiz question. So let me pull it up here. Elastic Observability brings data from multiple sources into a single data store, so you can monitor, detect, and react to events with speed. All right, all of you were correct. The answer is true. Okay, so the last solution we're going to go over is Elastic Security. Now, our next speaker, Cami, who's our security lead at Elastic, will do a deep dive on this solution. So I'm going to briefly touch on it. So Elastic Security helps you prevent, detect, and respond to security threats. And what's really cool about this is that it uses a lot of the same functionality that the observability solution does, but it's applied to security use cases. So as a security professional, you're keeping a close eye on network security logs, firewall logs, host logs, and the list goes on and on. And it's hard to make sense of the data when the data is kept in separate data sources. And the longer it takes for you to make sense of the data, the longer it'll take you to protect your company against security threats. So Elastic Security Solution brings all of these data sources into a single data store so you can search and analyze them all. So our security solution combines two products, SIEM and Endpoint. And these products will be covered during Cami's talk, so I won't go over them now. But our solution combines SIEM and Endpoint to provide unified protection for everyone. Now, this is not only for security analysts who are threat hunting, but also for users that have agents on their machine. Now, on top of that, our solution comes with built-in security expertise from Elastic and the community. So you have the ability to collaborate with the security community who all have similar use cases. And it's highly likely that someone in the community has already solved your problem. Now you don't need to reinvent the wheel. So last pop quiz, I'm gonna pull it up here. Okay, so what are the names of the three solutions from Elastic? Okay, so the correct answer is actually Elastic Enterprise Search, Elastic Observability, and Elastic Security. Now, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana are actually three products from the Elastic Stack. Okay, so far we talked about the Elastic Stack and the three solutions that are built on top of it. Now let's talk about how these are deployed. So you have lots of choices. You could always go with self-managed option. And this is when you download the Elastic Stack, unzip it, and run it on your environment. Then we have our cloud services. So Elastic Cloud provides Elasticsearch and Kibana as a service. And with Elastic Cloud, you could also use our solutions and core capabilities of our stack. And the cloud will be doing all the heavy lifting of provisioning the host, managing security, making sure your data is backed up. So this way you could focus on your business goals instead. Then we have our orchestration products, which is an intermediate solution between completely self-managing your stack and going to the hosted service. Now, this option is used by companies who can't use cloud for regulatory reasons. But with this option, you could take the same software that we use to power our Elastic Cloud and install it in your own environment. So this way, you can get the benefits we provide with Elastic Cloud in your own environment. Okay, so I hear you guys get free access to Elastic Cloud for a semester. And there are so many cool things that you could do with Elastic Cloud. And one of them is data visualization with Kibana. So let me show you what that's all about. Now with Zoom screen share, it just slows down everything. So I pre-recorded a demo for you guys. So let me get to it real quick.
Today, I'll be showing you how to visualize e-commerce sample data with Kibana. So when you log into Elastic Cloud and create a deployment, it automatically spins up Elasticsearch and Kibana. And remember, Kibana is a tool for exploring and visualizing data in Elasticsearch, and we're going to go over how you can do that. Now, when you launch Kibana from Elastic Cloud, it'll take you to this homepage. So let's start by adding data. Now, there's an Add Data option at the top. When you click on that, it'll show you multiple different options of how you can add data to Kibana. But for our demo, we're going to use the sample data that comes with Kibana. So click on Sample Data option. So let's say we're managing an e-commerce app and we're using Kibana to explore our data. So go to Sample E-commerce Orders and click on Add Data. Now it'll take a bit to add. Then click on View Data, then select the Dashboard option. So Kibana will take the e-commerce data and display it on the dashboard. And you'll see the data represented in multiple ways. So it shows you transactions per day, breaks it down by gender, you got your total revenue, and a lot more. Now, down at the bottom, you'll see individual orders that you could expand to see more information about the order and the customer. Now, there are multiple ways to view and analyze your data, and one of them is analyzing data within a certain time period. So scroll up to the page, and when you click on the clock icon, you can select the time range in which you want to view the data. So we're going to analyze data from the past 30 days. So select that. So let's say your manager wants to see a histogram for orders per day, but it's not in our dashboard, so we're going to create one. So go to the menu icon in the upper left corner, and under Kibana, click on Visualize option. Now this is a list of everything that is already displayed in our dashboard. And since we're creating a new histogram for orders per day, click on Create Visualization button. Then click on Horizontal Bar option. And it's going to ask you what data you'll be using to create this histogram. So choose Kibana's sample e-commerce data as our data source. Now go down to Buckets and click on Add. Then select the X-axis. Then select on Aggregation and click on the Date histogram. Now for the field, we'll just leave it as an order date. For minimal interval, we're creating a histogram for orders per day, so we'll set the interval to day. Then we'll name this visualization Orders per Day and click on Update. Now you'll see that the graph has been updated here. And you can customize it further by clicking on Count and selecting the color that you want. Okay. So go to the upper right corner and save this histogram. And we'll name this as orders per day. Then click on Save. Now let's add this histogram to our dashboard. So click on the menu option and under Kibana, click on Dashboard. So you can edit what you see on the dashboard here. So click on the Edit option in the upper right corner, then click on Add, then find the histogram that we just created. Then click on it. Now you'll get a message that orders per day was added, then X out of there. And when you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see the histogram that we just created. Now you can grab and drag it to anywhere you'd like. So with Kibana, it's really simple to create a new visualization on your dashboard, and you can organize it however you want to tell a story. So now that we have a dashboard looking the way we want, let's take a deeper dive into the data we're seeing. So while looking at our dashboard, you might have noticed the word cloud. This shows the top selling products. So bigger the words, the more popular the product is. So it seems like boots are one of our top selling products and we want to learn more about it. So scroll up and click on Add Filter. Now click on the field and scroll down to product name to select it. Then select the operator to is and value as boots. Then click Save. Now you'll see the data update in real time, and all of our visual representations are now focusing on boots. So if you scroll down to the word cloud, you'll see it has been broken down even further with different types of boots. So all the way at the bottom, you'll see that the histogram we just created was also updated just for boot sales. Now we see some spikes in data on certain days, and you can drill into one of those days to see why there was an increase in boot sales and strategize on how you can have more of those days. So one more thing that I want to show you is the canvas. So click on the menu option. Under Kibana, click on Canvas. Then click on e-commerce revenue tracking, and you'll see this displayed on your screen. So Canvas is a presentation tool, and when you're speaking to your various stakeholders, it's really nice to have a more visually appealing way to present data. So Kibana not only makes it super easy to visualize and analyze your data, but it also helps you tell a story in a visually pleasing way. Today, I'll be showing you how to visualize e-commerce sample data.
Okay, so that was the end of our demo. Do you guys have any questions? I know we went over a lot of stuff thus far. Okay, so I know it's getting late, so I'm gonna wrap up here. Now, so there are a lot of exciting things that you could do with the Elastic Stack. So if you're interested in getting started, I host a beginner's crash course, the Elastic Stack series, and I post my workshop schedule at the Elastic Austin user group on Meetup. So feel free to join to keep up to date on all the upcoming workshops. And last but not least, if you have any questions about the content of my presentation, feel free to send me an email here. And also, I blog a lot about Elasticsearch. So if you prefer to learn by reading instead, be sure to check out my blog. Okay, well, that's a wrap. I'll turn the floor over to Cami, who'll talk about the Elastic Security solution.
Hey, Lisa.
Yes.
Sorry, this is Dr. Arthur. Can you send us your email and your information just in case we want to take your crash course?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will create a PDF copy of this presentation and have Stephanie send it to you. How's that?
That's fantastic. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So I'm going to stop screen sharing.
Awesome.
All right. Are you ready for me?
Go for it, Cami. Take it away. Thanks, Lisa.
All right, let me share here. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Cami Lewis. I'm the security lead for community at Elastic. Just a little bit of background about me. I've been in security for about 20 years. I've done a lot of different things. I started out as a developer working for IBM. After about 2 to 3 days of searching for a missing period in my code and really just going crazy with that experience, I decided maybe I wanted to try something else. So I found my way to the penetration testing team, really by accident. And I discovered the art of SQL injection there. And at that point, I wanted to burn every line of code I had ever written. And that's when I discovered that I really liked security. I found it fascinating, and I've been doing it ever since. So today I'm going to give you a brief overview of Elastic Security with some slides, and then I'll take you through a quick demo of our SIEM, and then I'll show you a quick video of an APT34 attack in the SIEM. So let's get started. Can you see? Let's see, hold on. I got to get out of this share real quick. All right, tell me if you can see my slides. We good?
I can see them.
Yes.
Very good. All right. So first of all, I just want to say welcome to the Elastic community. So you are now part of the Elastic security community. And for us, being an open source company means more than just sharing our code. It means that we participate in many open source communities. We have about 150 user groups in 54 countries right now with over 80,000 members. And we're still growing. So 42 of those groups are in the US. You can find other people that are interested in Elastic and in Elastic security, specifically at our meetups, at ElasticCon events, our technical forum on our website, as well as our YouTube channel and our Slack channel. So there's lots of ways to connect with the community, and I'll share how you do that in just a moment. But more importantly, as Lisa already mentioned, you can find other people within the community that are trying to solve the same problems that you are. So as students, once you venture out into the workforce, if you haven't already, you're going to find that, that security really is a data problem. The underlying flavor of security is solving a data problem. And so being able to collaborate with other people that are solving those same problems that you're trying to solve is a huge benefit, because obviously it's easier when multiple people are putting their heads together and working on the same issue together. So that's one of the things that sets Elastic apart, is our built-in community, being part of the open source world. So as I mentioned, these are some of the ways that you can connect with the community, and we can send you this information as well after this presentation. But you might want to check out the Slack workspace, especially. There's a security, SIEM, and endpoint channel. So if you have any questions or want to collaborate with other folks in Slack, that's a really easy place to do it. And then also our YouTube channel, where you can view videos and meetups and other talks from the community. Our virtual user group is listed here, and then the technical forum on our website. That's where you can ask questions directly of Elastic engineers. So Lisa went over this already. I won't spend much time on this, but again, we have 3 solutions, 1 stack. We have enterprise search, observability, and security. Obviously, we are most interested in security for this course. So who is the Elastic security community? So I just want to mention the folks down in the right-hand corner primarily. They're a special subset of our ecosystem. That's our free and open security community. You may have heard of some of these projects, such as Rock NSM, the Helk, Security Onion. But if you haven't, be sure to check those out. They're doing a lot of really emerging work in security, and it's open source, which is really cool. All right, so let's get to the good stuff. So, Elastic Security. When we first started working on security about two years ago, we noticed that many of our community members and our customers, they'd been using Elastic for security without any functionality designed for security. So we decided to double down on that and create out-of-the-box content for them, specifically to be used for security, for the security analysts working in the Security Operations Center. So we have 3 areas of focus. The first being to eliminate blind spots. Elastic does not restrict volume, variety, or age of data, which is a differentiator, so that you can bring all data into the stack. This is really key because when you're searching for a needle in a haystack, as you have to do in security, you need the entire haystack to be able to search. Stopping threats at scale is our second focus area. We wouldn't be a security product if we didn't tell you that there was a problem and tell you how to stop it. So one of our core goals at Elastic Security is to bring the mean time to detect and the mean time to remediate to 0. And to do that, we need to always have always on detection is what it's referred to, or always on prevention. This is not just for known threats, but also for the unknown threats as well. So we focus on how can we use a combination of behaviors through machine learning and signatures to find the various scopes of attacks. So our latest release has around 200 detection rules, and they're all aligned with the MITRE attack matrix, if you've heard of MITRE. Bear with me for just a moment. Our third focus area is that we want to empower every analyst. So even those that are junior, such as tier 1 SOC analysts, which many of you may start working in that part of the field once you graduate, or you may already be working in a SOC or have an internship in a SOC. So we've invested a lot of effort into making it easier for analysts and junior analysts especially to learn to use our product. So it's important to us that they are able to be efficient in their investigations with the shortest learning curve possible. And just to give you a frame of reference, our SIEM app was released with version 7.2 in June of 2019. So a little over a year ago, and we've made a lot of progress since then. So at a high level, what we've done since last year, we've added a new application in Kibana, which we originally named the SIEM app, and it's now called Elastic Security. And then we also added Endpoint Security functionality when we acquired Endgame. So it is now a single user interface that allows you to manage security events from various log sources and data types. It also comes with protections that are built in. We added a detection engine. We added a lot of out-of-the-box content. And let's see what else. As I mentioned, we acquired Endgame. And then most recently, and this is the part that's really cool, is we created in GitHub an open source rules repo. So you can now go out to GitHub, you can contribute to this repo, you can collaborate with other engineers in real time on detection rules. So once you're working in the workforce, this is a real advantage. If there's an attack that occurs, you can now create detection rules with other analysts in real time in our repo and not have to start from scratch trying to come up with a rule. So SIEM and endpoint, as I mentioned, the Elastic security team's been really busy for the past year or so. So let me take you through a few of the things that they've been up to. Sorry, there's a sticky key on my keyboard. I think my son spilled something on my keyboard. All right. So one of the things that sets Elastic apart is the addition of free and open endpoint security, as we've mentioned a couple of times already. It's available in our free basic subscription tier. So we're not just a SIEM, we're a SIEM and endpoint security in one, which is a key differentiator. Elastic Agent is also a single installer interface, which is new, and you probably heard Lisa mention beats earlier. This is meant to replace the individual installation of beats. So this makes that process a lot easier. If you enable the Endpoint Security Agent, the Elastic Agent will download the module, which will give you additional insight. It will give you deep data visibility. You'll have insight into things like processes, networks, file access activity, additional things like DNS and DLL for Windows, for example. So things that are really helpful when you're doing an investigation. And in 7.9 and later releases, you also get free malware prevention for both Windows and Mac. So while you're observing your infrastructure, you can also enable protection in that way. This is a new visualization interface. This is also in 7.9 and later. You all should have access to this, I believe, once you start being able to play around in the SIEM. So whenever you look at an alert generated by the detection engine, the alert contains some type of endpoint data where there is a parent-child relationship, and you will now be able to visualize what's happening with those parent-child endpoints. Threshold-based rules and exception workflow is another new feature. So you can set thresholds for rules. So for example, a certain number of events with a certain amount of time that matches a specific condition that you want to set. So this type of ability to customize really makes it that much more useful. You can also exclude specific servers. For example, as an exception, you can exclude a server in the new exception workflow. So this just shows you how you would add an exception. And then I just want to briefly mention EQL. EQL stands for Event Query Language. It's a new query language that we added natively to Elasticsearch. It's more powerful than Kibana query language. It allows you to look at the sequence of events as well as relationships between events. So it has a very low learning curve. And we also designed EQL specifically for the security use case. And then the Elastic Common Schema is worth mentioning as well. You need to be able to uniformly examine your data. And as you start working with logs and working with data sources, I'm not sure if you've been doing that yet, but you'll start to see that, you know, there's different names for the same type of data. So you need to be able to examine that data no matter its format. That's why we created the Elastic Common Schema. So it defines a common set of field names for various data types that you ingest into the stack. This is an open source spec, and we've adopted it across the entire Elastic stack, including our SIEM. So here's just an example. So as I was saying, one data type, source IP, it might be called source in one set of logs. It might be called client IP in another data source. It might be called context.user.ip from another data source. You're bringing all of these data sources into the stack, and you need just one common name for all of those source IPs. And so with the ECS schema, you can basically normalize all of that data and give it the one name of source.ip. So that makes investigations a lot easier, and you'll see that as well once you start using the SIEM more. All right, so let's do a quick demo. I'm going to switch to another screen. So this is what the SIEM looks like, and I'm not sure if you have access yet. Can anyone tell me if you have access to the SIEM yet?
Not yet. Not yet. Soon. Okay. Yes. Soon you'll all be issued.
Soon you will. Soon you will all see this. And just real quick before I get into the demo, I want to explain this overview page because there's a lot of valuable information here. This is going to be the first thing that you see. So the detection alert trend, this is events which the Elastic SIEM has detected as being potentially malicious based off the built-in set of detection rules or any custom rules that you've created. External alert trend. This is if you're bringing in logs from outside sources, such as security vendors, things like IDS and IPS, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention, other endpoint solutions, Suricata logs, Zeek logs, various other outside data sources would show up here in this external alert trend. And then events is a breakdown of the events being sent to our stack. So you can change the stacking on any of these, which is really nice. This is the data that's being brought in right now. We have most of our events coming from Endpoint Security as well as Packet Beat, a little bit of WinLog data as well. And just briefly, I'll show you this part in the upper left-hand corner here, recent cases and timelines. If you were an analyst in a SOC, you would probably start your day out by looking here. If you were coming in on the morning shift, for example, you would be taking over any cases or investigations that happened during the night. And so this is where you would probably look first. You would join in on a case that's already been opened. You would start, picking up where your coworkers left off. Those would be listed here in a live SOC type scenario. And then security news. This is really useful. As the different security teams here at Elastic discover new threats or release new features, or they publish new content, they will immediately push all of that directly to this live feed. So that gives you sort of an instant view of what's happening without having to go to our website or having to go to outside data sources to gather that type of information. So let's take a look at the host view as well. Actually, now I'm going to detect detections. Just trying to get rid of this sidebar. All right, so detections. So again, this is all of our out-of-the-box detection content. This is where you would manage your rules. You would create rules here as well. So this is a new user interface. This allows you to basically customize all of your content. Again, we have this customizable histogram here. You can change the stacking by any type of rule, destination IP, for example. What else can I say about this? You can investigate any of these alerts listed in this rendering here at the bottom. You can investigate them directly in the timeline, and this is the timeline. And all you would do is drag and drop directly into the timeline. And the video is going to go into more detail for you about the timeline here in just a minute. But timeline is really useful for investigations. Let's move on to hosts. So for the host view, we gather as much metadata from the host as possible. And so that's the job of the beats. So there's a couple of beats processors that do this. They're on by default. So typically, as soon as you install a beat, you already have this level of rich information that's shown here. We're collecting operating system info. We're collecting cloud provider data, IP addresses, MAC addresses. So really, we're collecting everything you can about a host, every single IP address for every interface, so that host can't hide, because in a security investigation, if a host is able to hide, that's detrimental to your investigation. So these are just some pretty charts here that give an analyst a place to start looking. Looking at failed authentications usually is a good place to start if you're threat hunting, or if you're just wanting to, look around once you get access to the SIEM. This is a good place to start. Authentications down here in this rendering is the same data, but with a pretty chart that you can use, but as well as the raw data at the bottom. Again, you can drag and drop any of this information here into the timeline directly. So if you want to drill down into something, say you want to drill down into this James Spiteri host right here, you would just pop open the timeline and drag it. And again, it's going to help you drill down into the raw data. Uncommon processes. This is just looking at what's uncommon for that time period versus machine learning, which I'm not sure if you will have that for your course, but machine learning is learning gradually over time in relation to a whole data set. Anomalies is where you would see machine learning. So if you're running any machine learning jobs, this is where you're going to see the detections for those jobs. And then events, again, this is just a raw rendering of the data. What's really nice about this is anything that's blue, you can click on it and drill down. You can drag and drop any of these items in the timeline as well. So if there's a suspicious source or destination IP, for example, that you wanted to drag into the timeline, you can very easily do that. Scrolling down through here, I don't see anything. Often we'll have an IP that is labeled for me to drag, but it's not here. So I'm going to move on then to network. Let's try this. The map takes a little bit of time to view, so I preloaded it here for you. So this is a map that came in 7.4 release with point-to-point connections, and we added these icons in 7.5. So you can filter on this map. This is not just a map to look nice. And in a lot of SOCs, if you've been in a SOC, you'll see a big map up on the screen. And oftentimes that's just for visiting customers, just to make it look impressive. It's called a pew pew map. You've maybe heard that term. But this map, we've actually made it functional. So it's no longer just a pew pew map. It's now a functional map that you can actually use for your investigations. So that's a really cool feature. You can drag and drop these values as well. You can filter. You can click on the blue highlighted values and drill down. What else can I tell you about this? Source IPs and destinations, again, the raw rendering here, which is going to be useful for your investigations. Dragging values from these views into timeline especially is useful. We have DNS and HTTP, as well as TLS. Another view of anomalies if you're using machine learning. And then this is just another view of the external alerts, which I showed you on the very first overview page. If you had any external network data that you were bringing in, so Suricata, for example, that data would show up here in a chart for you. Let's move on to timelines. So I briefly mentioned timeline where you're dragging and dropping various values for your investigation. You can save this timeline so that you can look back onto it later, or so that you can share it with other analysts that you're working with in the SOC. And this is where you would do that. So you can also import timelines from other sources, or you can create a new one here as well. But this is where you would go to search for saved timelines. So if you're doing an investigation and you save your timeline, this is the quickest way to go and find it again. Cases is very similar. Again, if you're working on an investigation with more than one analyst, then you would want to create a case. That way it allows more than one person to work on the same timeline, essentially, or the same investigation. So this is just a quick case that we created. You can add markup language in here, which is really nice. So if you wanted to add a threat hunting playbook into this space, you could do that. That would enable your analysts to have basically step-by-step threat hunting instructions right away available in the case as soon as they start their day and as soon as they open the case. That's really useful because it sends them down the path of least resistance without having to go figure things out on their own. They don't have to go to an outside source and try to find a playbook, for example, of how to conduct this investigation. And then administration, I don't expect that you'll be using this tab for anything in your course. So I'm not going to go into this much, but this is where you would administer any endpoints that you have that you're wanting to work with directly. So that's the overview of the SOC, very high level. You're going to go into much more detail in your course, but I will be showing you a brief video now of an attack in the SIEM itself. But are there any questions about the SIEM real quick that I can answer before I do that?
A question, Cami. The use cases, does the product come with use cases already built into it?
Yeah, there's a lot of out-of-the-box content. So once you get started, you're going to see that there's about 200 detection rules out of the box that you can use for various use cases.
So on the topic of endpoint security, so how would that be in place on like servers that don't have like a Windows server directly on it, but it's running a hypervisor? So like in our SOC in school, we have 3 EXXI servers. And if we wanted to use Elastic to monitor those servers itself within the logs, would that be like within a VM with its own software? Or could that just be installed on the server itself to run the logs and track that?
Are you asking how would you bring those logs into the SIEM to be able to look at? Yeah, so we would have a module for you. So out on our website, you would look for the module for those, for that type of server, and then that's how you would bring that log data into the SIEM itself.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing. And we can go into that in more detail at a later date if need be.
Kind of one other question.
Yeah.
I believe you said that you have the MITRE attack framework integrated into the system. So does Elastic allow you to like modify some of them to the organization's needs?
Yeah, so you can completely customize detections. All of our 200 out of the box detections are modeled based on the MITRE attack model, but you can also customize detections. And so you do that in the detections view.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Detection rules here. And if you had any custom rules, like right here, you can see there's 30 custom rules that have been created in this view.
Okay.
So you can load your Elastic pre-built rules. That's the out-of-the-box content that I was talking about. Or you can create custom rules as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And then a final question that I have would be, would it be possible to have like an HTML link that would be able to display the dashboard? So like if we have a TV to display it without needing to log in, possibly?
So do you mean like a link that takes you to a Kibana dashboard?
Yeah, okay, yeah, something like that. Exactly.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because like currently what we're doing is that so the school was running Splunk, so we are bringing that RSOC back up. And so we're just using Splunk. So we have like a Splunk dashboard with like or like the I'm blanking out, but the URL for the dashboard. So it just displays like active connections and stuff like that. And then you can log into the actual UI to go and dig deeper into it. So like just having like a screen so that you could just visualize it. So if people were coming in, you could just throw that up on the screen and just keep track of it while you're working.
Yeah, so there's a couple ways you can do that. And Lisa touched on both Kibana dashboards and Canvas earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We can go into more detail if more content on those topics is needed. We could do another session on that, but you could either create a Kibana dashboard that links back to the SIEM. So when you scroll down into various views on your dashboard, you can link it back to views in the SIEM. Or you could create what's called a Canvas workpad. And Canvas is a really cool tool. That was the graphic she showed you where the two people had on red pants and orange pants. And it's basically a dynamic infographic is what Canvas is. So it allows you to click on like the pants, for example, and drill down into the data about those pants, if that makes sense. If you remember that graphic from her presentation. In the security world, and I can show you this at some point, you could create a security canvas. I think I have one handy to show you, unfortunately, but you could have whatever security relevant data is needed, to show management, for example. Like they might want to know, they would want to know about attacks, obviously. They would want to know sort of the high level data. And so you could create a canvas with dynamic data that it updates in real time, and then you can drill down. So you could have it link back to the SIEM.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. So that's sort of that explanation. I think it would be easier to demo all of that for you guys another time if you're interested in seeing that. Any other questions about the SIEM? So I'm going to just show you a quick video here. This is one of my colleagues. And he's our video master. So I'm going to show this to you. It's just a few minutes long.
So right now I'm running the latest version of SIEM and Endpoint, so 7.6.1 as of today, and the Endpoint 3.16. And what I did was I have a Windows machine, and I detonated one of our malware samples based off of APT34. It's a bit of a different story to the APT28 that we've been giving, but I just like running this one because it shows a lot of tremendous value. So on this Windows host, I ran Endpoint. I also ran WinLogBeat with Sysmon. Again, default config for WinLogBeat. I use the community version of Sysmon's config. I'm also running PacketBeat. This could be any sort of network data source. I wanted to use PacketBeat because obviously it's easy for me, but this packet data, this network data could have been from anywhere. So as soon as I ran that malware sample, you can see immediately pretty much all of these rules for this particular endpoint, James Honeypot Windows 30, were start to get triggered. So these are the out-of-the-box rules, right? I haven't done anything, I haven't touched anything, default SIEM deployment. So we have a bunch of Windows script executing PowerShell, local scheduled task being created, suspicious processes. And then we can see the endpoint rules come in with the link back to the SMP. I'll show what we detected there in a second. But you can see how many rules were triggered based on that single malware sample. And this shows a couple of things. So one, obviously we prefer people to use our endpoint, but if you're not using our endpoint, you still get a lot of value from SIEM. And this is something we want to highlight as well, that, hey, we'll take anyone's data, right? Whether you have someone else's endpoint, whether you're using our beats, we still have a layer of protection. Obviously, with our endpoint, you're gonna get an additional level of protection. So you have protection at the endpoint level, then detection in the SIEM, and we're gonna see what machine learning detected as well. So if I was an analyst looking at this, right, I can already determine for this particular host, there's obviously something going on. So what I would do is I'd switch to the host context. I preloaded it here. And if you look at the machine learning jobs here, there's quite a few that were triggered, particularly the first three. So the first one is telling me that we noticed a rare DNS question by PacketBeat. And you can see this DNS query that was run. So that's already weird. The second one is telling me, hey, we detected DNS tunneling. And if you noticed, it's for that same domain, withyourface.com. The third one is saying we noticed a W script running for this particular user, which is not normal. The rest are from a different, I was running something else, but these three all triggered after I ran that malware. And the first one is a severity of 100, second one is 69, 57. So they're not low severity anomaly scores. So we had the signals trigger a bunch of signals. The endpoint say there's something going on. And now we have machine learning saying there's something going on from a network perspective because we detected DNS tunneling, all from running that same single malware sample. Then obviously there's a few ways I can investigate. If you can see here, so this job in particular, okay, we know it's on this host, but this one said, hey, James Spiteri is doing something. Who the heck is this guy? So what I might want to do is let's look at everything James did across our entire infrastructure. So even though we know what happened on this host, I'm going to drag James into the timeline and show me everything he did across all my machines because I know he's doing something odd. And in fact, the first thing we can see is all those DNS requests via PowerShell, right? So look how easy we made it to read. We immediately saw that there's something going on in terms of DNS. We can also see this app pool lock here going on, creating scripts. Everything is super easy to understand. Child processes, all the stuff was picked up. This app pool.ps1, which actually came as a result of that malware, right? So we already know that something's going on. We picked up all this data. We detected it in multiple places. From here, one thing I might want to do is, okay, I know James is doing something suspicious on this particular host. And another thing I might want to do is, I now always want to know if James is asking for making, let's say, DNS request on this host via PowerShell. So once I put that together, based on the detections we already had, James is doing something suspicious. I always want to know when James is doing this now, because this is going to be a sign of suspicious activity. You gave an example here. You might add a few more elements. But now I can save this as a query. So James being silly, and in turn recreate a static detection just for that, right? So I could go back to the detection engine, manage signal detection rules, create a new rule, and just select the safe that I just ran.
From an analyst perspective.
So that was actually an APT 34 attack that James showed you there. So that just shows very high level how you would start investigating in our SIEM. Again, we can go into a lot more detail in another presentation if need be. But are there any other questions right now? All right. Well, I'll give it back to you, Stephanie.
Okay. Well, thanks, Cami. So basically, I mean, that for all intents and purposes for this evening kind of concludes just your introduction to Elastic. While Cami was speaking, I was actually working with my colleague on the cloud team to finish getting your Elastic Cloud's account set up. And so you should, hopefully that will be completed either this evening or tomorrow. And then in which case you will then receive an email saying that you just need to activate your account and verify your email address. So just be on the lookout for that email. Sometimes it gets lost in spam. I will definitely let your professor know once those emails go out so he can inform you. And then you'll have that Elastic Cloud account for the duration of your semester. So, you know, you can obviously explore the SIEM, but you can also explore some of the things that Lisa talked about in terms of Kibana, using some of that sample data, really just kind of exploring within Elastic Cloud. You can upload your own data if you have it, use it really in any which way that you want to. We're really just kind of giving you that tool just to kind of be able to expand on this kind of foundation that you've built this evening and hopefully explore a little bit more with our products. I know that we will be working with you during the semester, possibly, you know, working with an AMA session with one of our other engineers and a CTF during your course. But obviously in the interim, if you have any questions or need any help, there's a couple of resources that you can use. In addition to reaching out to myself or Lisa or Cami, you can also just visit our Discuss page, and I'll put that in there, which has different solution kind of categories for different solutions for different questions that you have. And it's a great way to kind of interact with our engineers and to ask questions that you need help with. And also with our community, as we mentioned. And so those are also just really awesome opportunities. And I will also keep your professor informed of any meetups that we have that are security focused, so that you can be sure to join those if you want to, or watch a recording just to kind of see what's happening with that. But other than that, I mean, I think that is it for us this evening. I just want to open it up one more time to see if there are any questions or anything else that we can answer for you right now. All right. Well, I put my information in the chat, but I will also be working to get a PDF of both the presentations that we did and the recording of this. So we will pass that along to you so you can watch it. You have it at your disposal. And we will keep you kind of up to date with different events that we're doing. We are having a big community conference coming up in February. And I will be sharing that information with your professor. He can pass it along. It's all virtual, it's all free, and it's all about different users and use cases, and a great way to learn about Elastic. And security has a big focus within that conference. So we look forward to working with you guys and helping you throughout your course. And don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, we wish you all a good evening, and we will see you in the future.